the brick walkway and then hammering the stake into position. Once I have my stake secured in position, I take my trusty floss and tie a knot around it. This way it allows me to have a trusty string line all the way across the yard. I measure the same 12 inches off the opposite side of the walkway and hammer that stake in. I wrap the floss around the stake extremely tight, that way I know that I have a nice straight edge along the side of the walkway. Now you will want to double check a couple locations along the side of the walkway just to make sure you have an even spacing all the way across. And in the end you should have something simple like this. At this point you're going to use your trusty shovel as a cutting device going along the string line edge. Now try and do this as straight as humanly possible, but remember you don't have to go very deep. Generally grass doesn't grow any further than a couple inches from the topsoil. Now at this point go ahead and take your shovel and remove the grass from the area, putting it to the side because the fact that once you do remove this, you will want to separate the grass from all the soil that it collects. It does tend to grab and hold on to the dirt itself, which is why you take it, shake it as hard as possible to get all of the loose dirt out, and then place it to the side. Because if you don't do this, even a small area like this can add up to over a couple 100 pounds of weight just because of the fact that you didn't remove all of the soil from it. Next, go ahead and take your potting soil and disperse that along the side. Now you don't specifically have to do this, but I like to do it because of the fact that with this soil it's not really nutrient dense, so I like to put a few extra nutrients for nice healthy plants, yes.
This is a boxwood. Actually, technically it is called a dwarf boxwood because it only can be 1 to 2 feet high. Make sure you're getting the dwarf boxwood if you're doing this type of application and you don't want it to get massive, because these things can get up to at least 6 feet if you do get the larger ones. And if you want to put them closer together, you can make a nice little ledge just like this. But in our purpose, at least for our project, we're going to be staggering them every 3 feet.
Now go ahead and take your tape measure and run that along the side of the walkway. Again, I'm dispersing these boxwoods every 3 feet. It's a very good eye-appealing spacing if you're not trying to clump all these together, but just remember you may have to adjust your spacing according to the space you have. Next is to dig your holes for the plant itself. Now, luckily these plants are so small and tiny that this literally only takes a couple shovelfuls. Make sure to add a bit of water prior to planting just because you don't want to plant your nice new plant into dry dirt. Plants tend to die that way. Prior to planting, you do want to break up the soil from the actual plant itself. That way the root system grows properly. Go ahead and fill in the sides a bit, but not too full, just enough to make sure the plant's not going anywhere, and then water along the sides of it. This way the plant can fully absorb the moisture. And look at that time-lapse moisture suckage. Now go ahead and do this process to every single one, making sure it's nice and straight and centered in between that 12-inch space. I'm also paying attention to the elevation of the actual plant itself. It doesn't have to be too accurate, but I'm trying to make sure there's a couple inches of trunk space above the actual brick itself. Once that is complete and you've watered to each plant, go ahead and level out the remaining soil. Make sure to compact the soil properly, which basically means just put a little pressure on it. And once you're done, you'll have something looking like this. Ah, yes, look at that. Nice and straight, just like me.
Now, one item that I suggest everyone getting is weed blocker. Now, this is a fabric material in which it allows water to get through, but no UV rays, which means that anything underneath it will die and can't grow, which is perfect because of the fact that I don't want any grass or any weeds growing right around these plants. There you go, less headaches.
Now, because we don't need a full sheet and we only need 12 inches to work with, we make it easier by actually cutting this fabric itself. The tape indicates my 12-inch mark, and then I'm using a blade to cut the fabric itself. Now, as you're rolling this out, you may find out that you have to cut the fabric deeper, which is something that I had to do, but why show you my mistake? I'm editing it. I don't need to show you every mistake I make. With the fabric fully rolled out and in position, I take my trusty blade and cut a little X right where each boxwood needs to go. I then take the fabric and place it over the boxwood. I try and do this as carefully as possible, but in all reality you don't have to be super careful because of the fact that this is not a dainty little flower. It's a boxwood. Just try not to break any branches. Now it's time to pick up your rock at your local planting store. Now in all reality you don't need this much rock for this type of project, but it's a lot easier to get material this way if you have a truck. If you don't, you will need multiple bags of rock. Just FYI. Once you get your truck in position, go ahead and take a trusty 5-gallon pail bucket and fill it up and start pouring out your rock. Again, you don't have to be super careful when pouring these out, but just make sure you're not dumping this massive bucket of rock right on top of the plant, because that's not good for it. Once you have all your rock poured out, it's just a matter of getting on your hands and knees and leveling out, making sure it has a nice even coverage over the entire weed blocker, and looks good and professional. And as a side note, if you don't have a truck available, I used approximately 15 to 20 buckets full of rock to do a 40-foot stretch. In the end, go ahead and water it down with a hose, clean it up, and you are good to go. Look at that. What a beautiful, sexy beast of a walkway.
And there you have it, episode number 10 of BYT done. Good to go. That means I'm officially out of fingers after this video, which is pretty awesome. It means I'm doing work. Thank you for your time. Please like this video. Please subscribe to this channel. And please let me know what you'd like me to do in the next video. I might do it. In any case, thank you for your time and catch you next time.
Here I'm just minding my own business and this bee just gets in my shot. Get out of here, bee.